My name is Werner. Thanks for tuning in to BerryBot TV. I've got a lot of things I'd love to go over with you guys. I made myself a list here. I've been busier than heck building and playing with 3D printers. One of the newest things for the BerryBot 3D Pro machine is the Holy Grail of platens. I've designed and built a new platen for the Pro version. This is a 3/8 inch thick cast aluminum, and by far is the best thing that I've found to date. I've played around with a lot of different things. I've tried machining and grinding, extruded 6061 plate. I've tried different thicknesses of the cast aluminum, going all the way up, even playing around with 1 inch. The only reason I did 1 inch is I ended up using it for a fixture to machine these out. But this is really giving unbelievably impressive results. The main thing with this is, of course, the flatness. And I'm finding it to be far superior to to doing anything, even using some kind of auto bed leveling. There's nothing that can be better than having a perfectly flat build plate. It heats up. The only problem that I did have is the PID settings for in the controller. Because there's so much thermal inertia to the build plate, I couldn't use auto tuning, and some of the settings are a little bit off as far as what would be considered normal. And the main one is the delay time. The delay time for my Platen is up around 150 to 200, where normally you might see something like 5. So some of the settings that I have for my PID is, just to give you an example, I'm using about 475 for the gain. The constant time is about 1500, and I'm using 110 for the dead time. So that's the only thing that was giving me an issue. Otherwise it heats up to 60 degrees C in about 5 minutes, which is perfect for me. Lately what I've been doing is, the first thing when I flip my printer on is I'll go ahead and preheat to about 40 degrees, and then usually that gives me just a few minutes. I don't even put any delay or hold time. From the time I start the print, it'll just heat up the hot end instantly and then go right to print. And usually I'm right there at about 60 when I preheat to 40. So that's working out really great. Another thing that I've developed, and I'll give you some images of it, is I've come up with a wiper over here on the edge of my Platen that it's really working out super. And what I'm utilizing is this red silicone. They use this a lot in aircraft, but it's totally unaffected by the heat of the hot end. And the way I have it set up is my hot end runs down to the edge of this, and then it will go ahead and just wipe the tip off as it heads to the center of the build Platen. And that's working out really cool. Another thing I'm going to show you at the end of this video is one of my favorite projects I've been working on. It's got a whole bunch of prints in it. It's a toolkit for leather working. That's something I've enjoyed doing ever since I was a young kid, and I've always wanted to put together a really nice box to contain all the tools that I use for leather working. So I printed a whole bunch of tool holders. As you know, I love doing that. And I'll share that with you. Another thing I'm going to do is go over some we're going to head over to the classroom, and I'm going to go over a couple things. One of them is calculating kind of the optimal length for your carbon rods. This is one of the questions I get asked most, is how long do I make my rods? So we'll go over that in the classroom. And I'm also going to give you some hot tips for 3D modeling. I'm finding out a lot of guys that have their printers built, their biggest hurdle now is modeling up the things that they want. So I'm going to give you, there's tons of great tutorials, especially if you're using Fusion 360. Some guys have done some really great work putting together tutorials for that, so I'm not even going to go into that. But, you know, Fusion has had some growing pains, but I think that if, as an overall solution, it's a really great modeling software. And the fact that Autodesk is making it available to, you know, startup companies and to students and whatnot for not costing you anything is really can't be beat. The other ones that you could look at that I would recommend is Onshape, of course, and then SketchUp are another two that would be pretty good solutions for building your models. But I'm going to give you some tips nobody else will tell you off the bat, and it'll save you a ton of time getting involved with 3D modeling. One of the other things that that I've done is put together a nice model for the part cooling shroud for the fan. And this is the model for, I've had it available for the standard kit, but this is the model that's available now for the mini end effector. So if you guys, I sent out an email, automated email to most everybody that's ordered the mini kit. If I missed you, go ahead and shoot me an email and I'll send you the STL model so you can print one of these off for yourself. This thing's working out really terrific. The bellow that's in this allows the air just to flow right over the top of the part without cooling your heater block. Another thing too is I wanted to mention, this is a pretty neat little idea that E3D came up with, this little silicone boot. However, I still prefer the method that I've been using, putting this little thermal blanket around my block. And part of the reason I think mine is still a better solution is that it helps when you zip tie it around the wires that come off of the heater and the thermistor. It helps support all those. You know, it's not going to be a problem when you're only printing hundreds, you know, of hours, but when you start getting into thousands of hours, those are the little details that I think can really save you some grief. So that's the reason I still think it's a good idea to use the thermal blanket. One other thing too that I've been playing quite a bit with is fans, and this is the fan that I've been using and preferring the most. This is a 40mm fan. And you can get it from a few places online, Amazon, and I believe, I can't, Monoprice I think might have them available, but it's pretty reasonable, and the dBA for the output is really terrific, and it's got high quality bearings, so I'm getting good longevity out of these. One of the biggest things that I've noticed for people that are getting into in the range of, you know, tens of thousands of hours worth of print time, the power supplies that I've been using Means power supplies. They're 30 amp, 12 volt, as well as some knockoffs. Now, both of them are performing really great. You know, for many thousands of hours worth of use. The thing that's been failing on some of the knockoffs are these fans, and they just start to make noise. It's not that they're not working, they just get noisy, and it's just irritating. So I changed a couple out with these, and we've got you know, some of the machines now have thousands of hours with this unit on there and are working terrifically. So if you guys are in the market for changing out your 40mm fans, whether it's a part fan or for a power supply, this is a really good solution. That's something else I did, is I dissected power supplies, and I did a lot of testing of power supplies, and found, I think one of the reasons why it's even the knockoffs have been pretty successful on the Berry bots is because I don't utilize the current coming out of that power supply to heat the Platen, and that's a biggie. Most of the load for guys that are using DC heaters for their Platen, I think just puts a lot more stress on the power supplies and definitely cuts down on some of the longevity of them. But a couple other things that I wanted to go over is get a lot of guys, not with the BerryBot printers, but just other people in general that are having trouble And you know, the first thing that I do when I go to help troubleshoot somebody with their printer is, the very first thing is I'll check the extrusion and make sure that 100 millimeters is actually 100 millimeters when they're extruding. And then the other thing I do, which is the simplest thing in the world, is to print a little 1 by 1 by 1/8 inch high little square like this, and with solid infill. And this will help diagnose so much for you, and it's quick. So you know, for you guys that are helping other people, you know, get their printers together, I know there's a lot of really cool models out there on the Thingiverse and whatnot to help diagnose, you know, quality of print, you know, the print quality of any printer. But this will get you right in the ballpark real quick, and it's super easy to do. One other thing, that this is another fan that I could recommend, but it is a little bit more pricey. I think they're around 15 bucks. And you know, I built all my computers for years. I've been building custom machines for myself, and I always use this brand of fans in my machines. And it's a really high quality fan. I really like them. And I do have some of them in my machines, but they are a little bit pricey. You know, where you can get one for $5, this one will be almost 3 times more, like 15 bucks. But anyways, that's something else that I've been playing around with. You know, everybody's talking about and going crazy with fidget spinners. I was like, what the heck's the big deal? And the reason why it wasn't a big deal is, you know, we've been playing with these for years, right? Anyways, yeah, I think that's pretty funny. You know, something else that I wanted to share is I've been busier than I'll get out recently. I purchased got myself a CNC, high-speed CNC gang lathe, and I needed some help, you know, manufacturing the parts for the end effectors and the carbon rod ends. And so now I'm able to make thousands of them, you know, within days, and it's really become a really big help. I'm hoping it'll free up some of my time, because I really enjoy doing these videos, but you know, it's just lack of time was preventing me from doing it. So hopefully that'll be something that can help me out in the future. A couple things too I wanted to mention. This has been one of my favorite tools lately, and a few people have asked me about it, so I thought I would mention it. This company here, Kneps, they're a German company that manufactures some of the highest quality tools that I own, as far as pliers, snips, cutters, and that type of thing. But this is a little itty bitty one, and the reason I like it so much is it almost works like an adjustable wrench, but it is a plier. And so, and it's got a parallel jaw on it, which is really great. And the reason I like it, the little one works perfectly. When I open it all the way up, I can I can leave my thermal blanket on if I want to change the tip out or do anything to the tip on my end effector. This is what I grabbed to do it, because I don't have to pull the thermal blanket off, and it works fantastic. Another thing too is this. I've been using these, as you guys know. I really enjoy using the blue tape. You know, I've got some really fancy, you know, build tack and, you know, all these gadgets, but I always tend to go back to the blue tape. And I know a lot of people have trouble with it, but you know, I'm able to pop off, you know, many parts. I'd say maybe 30 to 50 parts, you know, off of the same blue tape. I don't do any scuffing of it. I will, when I first put it on, I will wipe it real quickly with some denatured alcohol, not heavily. I don't scrub it. I just do a quick wipe on it, and from the first print they stick on there really well. And you know, I just find it to be my go-to. You know, I've been getting the rolls like this 6-inch roll. I don't know exactly where I got this. They last forever, but they're a little bit pricey to get at the beginning, but shoot, I mean, it'll last you many years. So this is made by Toy Builder Labs, and this is the little spatula that I've been using to to pop my prints off. Now when you get it, you can find these on Amazon. When you get them, they're not great. they're just something that you use and then modify them. And what I do is I take, you'll see the blade's fairly thin, which is good, and it's got some good spring memory to it. But the thing is it's kind of blunt on the edge. And so what I do is I go ahead and I take some like 400 grit wet sandpaper, and I polish the edge down to where it turns it into a blade. And then I just knock the very sharp burr edge off of it. And that's worked out really terrifically. I got a couple of them for those prints that are, really big and really stuck down. But they're really inexpensive, and I think I've got a whole bunch of different types that I've bought over the years, and even something like this. But out of all of them that I've bought and tried, this has been my favorite. And so I mark it and try to do. I've got a few of them that I polished up, and polish them on the edge that's on top, so you always know which way to use the tool, and that'll be helpful. Something else I'm going to show you that it's kind of a cool tool that I've been using lately. This is something I got off of, I think might have got it off of eBay or AliExpress. But you've seen dentists use this this headset. It's basically like having a microscope on your head. And the thing that's cool about it is that, when you're doing, when you're really diagnosing and you're testing out new filaments, it really comes in handy. And the thing that's neat about it is that it literally is like a microscope. It's like 12-time optical zoom, but the distance is about 14 inches. The focal distance is about 14 inches away. So what it does is it allows you to have your head. You don't have to have your head right down there in the printer. You can have it. You can be back away from it and still get that image as if you were looking at it through a microscope. It also has an unbelievably bright light on the end of this thing, and it works really super great. It's a little finicky. It takes a little getting used to, and I can't wear my glasses with it. I pull my glasses off, and it's got a rechargeable battery that lasts forever. So this thing's been pretty fun to play with. One other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you something that I've been doing quite a bit lately, and I think just adds a lot to a model that you're printing, maybe to hold something, or something you want to be heavier. And that is, here's a couple of examples that I've printed recently. This is a holder that I make for some of my screwdrivers. I'll show you how it works, but we'll go over to the bench and I'll show you what I've been doing with this. I'm printing this without any bottom. So in other words, in Simplified 3D, when you go to put in the where it says bottom layers, just put 0 in there. And this is one that's only got 5% infill with 0 bottom. And what I do is I take some lead shot that I buy in bags from Cabela's, and I go ahead and top off the voids with lead shot, and then put a layer of epoxy over the top of it, and just grind it or sand it down. But what it does is this is, for example, this is one that I made for these little cups, these little solo cups. And what I do is I use them for all kinds of things. You can use it for paint, if you're brushing, doing some fine detailing with paint. But specifically, I built this one for these daubers. And I use this in leatherworking for putting dye in here. And believe me, that dye is one thing you don't want to get all over the place. The stuff's pretty nasty. So, but this is really terrific because having it lead filled, it makes it really nice and heavy and stable. So you can put your dauber in here and it holds it perfectly in place. Another thing that I like doing is I use a rubber, a high grip rubber sheet that I laminate to the bottom. I'll show you the part numbers that I use for that from McMaster Carr. But it just adds so much to your models, and it's so easy to do. When you grab a hold of it, it feels substantial. And So for some things that you want to have a little bit of mass and heavy, it really makes a big difference. So let me see what else I got here. A lot of you know that I've been using exclusively the Duet Wi-Fi for my controller for the printers that I'm building, and I've tested a whole bunch of them, and I really haven't endorsed one or the other. They've all been okay, but this Duet Wi-Fi, I can say I've really fallen in love with it. At first, when the Wi-Fi part of it, I was thinking, you know what, I don't need Wi-Fi. I use the SD card and it works great for me. I don't need Wi-Fi, but now that I've had it, it's really terrific. And I just send via Wi-Fi to the controller, my models to print, and it's super, super neat. Setting it up is fairly easy. They've got pretty good instructions on how to do it, and once it's set up, you never have to mess with it. It's got a specific IP address that I can use on any of my browsers, and just go ahead and you just send it right over. It's really awesome. Big kudos to Dave Escher at Escher 3D, and also the guys at Think 3D, Print 3D. It was a collaborative effort between those guys to bring this product out, and I gotta say it's really, really great. The last year they've made a lot of improvements. I've been playing with it for about almost a year and a half, and they've made some huge improvements to it, and it's definitely my go-to, and I highly recommend it as far as a high-end 3D printer controller. I briefly mentioned the IR auto leveling feature that this Duet Wi-Fi does have, and I went ahead and put it on there. The main reason I put it on there is that if I wanted to throw a build tack on there, I could just use the auto leveling and not have to worry about changing any of my settings in the controller for Z height. I very seldom use this, or glass for that matter. My go-to pretty much is just PLA. I do some of the other ones, nylons, ABS and whatnot, for certain things. But the thing I like about the PLA is I like how rigid it is, and I'll tell you what, the PLAs have really come a long way in the past couple of years. I've been using a lot of eSun PLA, and also Hatchbox, but mostly eSun lately. They're PLA Plus. I've really enjoyed printing with that, and I've made some things that I thought, well, if this works out, I'll print it with some other material, and one of them specifically was it's an overarm for my table saw, and I'll show you a snapshot of that. This project just turned out amazing. It's got a big, like an S-shaped tube that I made out of PLA. It's about 2¼ to 2½ inches in diameter, and it's about 0.08 wall thickness. And I thought, well, it's going to be a little fragile, for the size of it, how long it is. But I've had it now for about 2 years, and it just works amazing. I've even smacked it a few times with some wood, thinking, oh boy, that's got to break it. And it's held up amazingly well. So PLA is still my go-to print filament. One thing I wanted to mention is, one thing that you may have noticed is that even with the same manufacturer and brand and type of filament, when you start changing colors, there can be quite a drastic difference in how one color prints versus another. And I was really surprised. I was shooting some brown through my extruder that just acted so much differently. Same exact PLA Plus from eSun, but it just acted so much different than the black that I normally print with. And I just find that really interesting, how different colors will react and print differently. So that's something to keep in mind. If you all of a sudden you change a color and you realize your print is acting differently, it very well could be just the color changed itself. We'll go over the classroom and I'll show you a couple things on my whiteboard.